Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our HashiCorp webinar, where today we'll be looking at NetApp ONTAP encryption with HashiCorp Vault. My name is Connor Beechnell, Senior Field Marketing Manager here at HashiCorp, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Our presenters will introduce themselves shortly. However, I just wanted to go through some general housekeeping items before they kick things off. Firstly, we'll have a live Q&A session after the presentations, so if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please enter them in the Q&A box provided and we'll answer them at the end. Secondly, just to make you aware that this session is being recorded and we'll send that out to everyone by email after it's been processed. Usually that takes a day or two. So with that, over to you, Kapil.
Thank you very much. So let's get started about NetApp encryption with HashiCorp Vault. Today I have with me David Benadiba. He's from NetApp, and me, Kapil Arora, and I will be the co-presenter with David together, and we will talk about the topic. David focusing on the NetApp part of things, and I will focus on the HashiCorp side of things. And we also have some exciting demo, which we have prepared. But before that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Kapil Arora. I am a cloud infrastructure automation and DevOps engineer, currently working as a senior solution engineer at HashiCorp. I am also a subject matter expert in HashiCorp Vault, and I work here in the DACH region and help multiple customers in the pre-sales process, in architecture, design decisions, etc., around our automation tools. I've also linked my GitHub and LinkedIn here if you are interested and want to reach out. David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Kapil. So I'm David Benadiba. I'm working at NetApp. My previous role was a professional services consultant. I was based in France, then moved to Israel, a kind of mixture. And now, since almost 2 years, I'm a global solution engineer for the major banking customer called the Global Customers in France. I'm based in France, but all my customers are all around the world and present in APAC, in America, and of course in Europe. I've also joined my GitHub, where I'm sharing some of my scripts and some of my development I'm doing. And of course, you have my LinkedIn if you want to get in touch with me. Thank you, Kapil.
Thank you. So let's quickly go through the agenda for today. So first of all, we talk about the NetApp topics. We believe that probably there are many people in the webinar who are not very well aware of NetApp as a company. So we have a short company overview. And then David will go deeper into NetApp ONTAP security and what are the options in encryption space, how can you make it more secure? And then I will talk about HashiCorp. We also believe probably there are people who do not know a lot about HashiCorp as a company, so a small company overview. Then I will introduce HashiCorp Vault and then talk about the integration that we have with NetApp and how does the external key management integration work together, how Vault is a KMIP server for NetApp. And then David has prepared a live demo for us, which I'm also very excited about. And we will finish the presentation with some key takeaways, and we will share some resources at the end. So at this point, I will hand it over to David, and David will share his screen and talk about NetApp and NetApp encryption and security.
Sure. So let me share the screen. This is a virtual world. We have to switch between screens. So let me 1 second. Here it is. I think you guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, let's talk about NetApp. And I want to briefly present you what we are and what we're doing at NetApp. I think most of you are already aware about what we are and what's the company are, but I just want to make a short introduction for those who doesn't know it. So NetApp has been created in 1992, and originally we were a storage vendor with the mostly NAS protocol. And then a few years after, we introduced SAN storage, where we created some what we call unified storage appliances. We were kind of the first one which has this unified storage. And since something like 6 years, we started our transformation, our cloud transformation. And now we are more data-centric solution, with data-centric company. Oops, I think we have some issue. I'm going to start it again. Okay, Bill, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, I had some disconnection. Sorry, this is live. So as I was mentioning, six years earlier, we started our transformation, and now we became from a storage vendor to a data-centric company, where we are helping our customers really leveraging their own data across what we call a data fabric. And we are already present in major public cloud solutions such as Google Cloud, AWS, Azure with our solution. And we can also provide some services in the public cloud, and even cost analysis, like compute analysis for your billing in the public cloud. So as I was mentioning also, we can help you building your own, what we call data fabric, to leverage the data wherever you think it's relevant and wherever your business think it's relevant. It could be both in on-prem or even in the cloud, or even in a mixture of them called an hybrid cloud, where you see here, this is really to enhance the freedom, the mobility and agility of all your different applications. So let's now really focus on the security and how we can answer some security question at NetApp. So at NetApp, we can offer you a different layer of security. We have in-flight encryption, where we can really protect encrypt the data in the transit between the client itself and the server. It could be using Kerberos over NFS. It could be using IPsec now since the latest release of ONTAP. It could be using SMB signing for encryption of the CIFS protocol, for example. So this is what we call the in-flight encryption. We have also what we call the encryption at rest. And the encryption at rest at NetApp can be done in the software mode or in a hardware mode. So the software mode is what we call the NetApp volume encryption or the NetApp aggregate encryption. We're going to see the difference in the next few slides. And we have also a way to encrypt the data using a hardware-based encryption, where we are here using some hardware, some drives, which has a little chip inside that is doing the encryption. So those drives are called NetApp self-encrypted drives. It could be spinning drives, or it could be SSD drives. Okay, and you can use them all together. You can have in-flight encryption and then software-based encryption, both together, and providing some more security for your different application. And the more application layer you are going to go, and the more granular it's going to be. I mean, if you have, and we're going to see in the next few slides, if you have a hardware-based encryption, then all your storage system is going to be encrypted. And if you go for a software-based encryption, let's say NetApp volume encryption, you can encrypt one single volume. It's up to you. You will be able to choose the granularity. Okay, so at NetApp, we support different key managers. We have the onboard key manager, also known as internal key manager, which is pretty interesting since it's just spinning some code inside the NetApp box and provide you a way to encrypt your data. So it's costless and it's really simple to introduce. The caveat with that is that we have to maintain some regulation in our business. And here you may understand that the keys and the data itself are stored into the same box, which is providing some issue with some compliance level, high compliance level at the customer. So we are also supporting what we call external key manager. So an external key manager is basically to provide this, offload this capability of creating keys and storing the keys for encryption purpose to an external box here, which is going to be HashiCorp Vault. So basically, this is interesting because we can have a centralized key manager. So you can use your key manager for MongoDB, or it could be for SQL databases and so on. And you can use the same physical hardware and the same, application itself. It could be HashiCorp Vault here to handle also the encryption keys for your NetApp appliances. So this is why we, for certain compliance regulation level, we recommend to use an external key manager. But it has also some considerations. So it has some costs. Here you need to pay licenses for HashiCorp. You need to buy some hardwares and stuff like that to handle those ones. But if it's a centralized one, you have it already in-house. So the cost is not really important. You have more complexity, of course. You have to know and have some knowledge in the HashiCorp Vault to handle this key mechanism and stuff. You have to dedicate some network. You have a network which is going to be used to exchange the key. So you have to ensure that this network is reliable, and we have some backups and stuff like that of your keys also stored outside of the cluster. So those are the considerations you have to keep in mind when you're using external key manager. So here I'm going to go a little bit deeper inside the data path and the data workflow that we have when we are talking about security encryption using hardware-based encryption. So as you can see here, you have different level of in the workflow, and this is basically to show the data path when I'm doing, let's say, a write. I'm writing a file to a NetApp systems. So when I'm writing the file, I'm going to the network layer, then I'm going to the WAFL. WAFL is the file system of ONTAP. So it's called Write Anywhere File Layout. So this is the way we are, this is our file system. And then we're gonna go to the red layer. The red is going to create what we call a stripe, a set of blocks that is coming with the, the red level of the protection of the stripes. And then when we have the stripes, which is configured and ready to destage, we're destaging it to the drives. So if we are using some hardware-based drives, the encryption itself is going at this level only. So it means that all the red, the WAFL and the network is not impacted by the encryption itself. So it means that it does not consume some CPU cycle inside the node, the NetApp nodes. Here, all the encryption is done at the disk layer and not consuming any performances. And of course, we do support those industrial standard security, the most demanding and compliant, like FIPS 140-2, and we support also AES 256 bits. Really a really demanding compliance. Compared to that, we have the software-based encryption. The software-based encryption, if we see the data path again, we can see that when I'm writing a file, I'm going to the network, I'm going to WAFL, and then I'm going to the red layer. At the red layer, I'm creating the blocks and put them into stripes. And at this moment, I'm trying to leverage what we call the TPM. There is a little chip inside each and every nodes, which is creating the keys and encrypting all the different blocks. And this encryption is done at this layer, at the red layer, which is consuming a little bit of CPU cycles, but still, now you have encrypted your data and you're able to destage this data on your disk drives. I mean, whatever disk drive you have, it could be also self-encrypted drives or it could be regular drives. We don't care. Okay, so this is pretty interesting since it's like, again, a really granular way to encrypt your data at the volume level or even at the aggregate layer. We're gonna just see right after this one. And it also help you to, I mean, we can use it to using external key manager or even using the internal onboard key manager. And it's completely software defined, I mean, completely software based encryption, not using any hardware based encryption. So it's available to the entire portfolio, to the entire ONTAP portfolio. It could be the software defined storage, it could be cloud, ONTAP in the cloud, or it could be the appliance that you may know already. So one of the caveat of using NetApp volume encryption, and we're going to see it right here, is that it's about the efficiency. So as you at NetApp, you know, you may aware about the efficiency. So what we have at NetApp, we can enable the deduplication, the compression, the compaction, which is basically going to reduce the footprint on the disk drive itself. So if every single volume is using a different key, if you are writing exact same blocks in two different volumes, the blocks itself at the red layer and of course at the volume layer is not going to be, it's going to be a completely different one since you're like hashing it and encrypting it with a different key. So to bypass this phenomenon, we have created what we call the NetApp aggregate encryption. So NetApp aggregate encryption is going to provide one single key to encrypt all the different volume that is stored into one single aggregate. So this means that if I'm writing in volume A and in volume B the exact same bytes and the exact same blocks, because I'm going to use the same key at the end, the blocks itself is going to be exactly the same, even encrypted, even after encryption. So it means that if my deduplication, if my compression mechanism is going after those blocks, it's going to remove these blocks and then only store one single copy of the blocks and not having to store multiple blocks and avoid having a bad ratio when you're talking about efficiency. So NetApp aggregate encryption or NetApp volume encryption has the same mechanism. It's going to interact at the aggregate layer, at the red layer. And it's going to consume a little bit of CPU, but aggregate encryption or volume encryption is going to have the same impact in terms of performances. There is no difference going for volume encryption than going for aggregate encryption in terms of performances. Okay, one more thing I would like to introduce you. As you may already know, at ONTAP, with ONTAP, we have the ability to split an appliance into different tenants, also called SVMs. So what you can do with now, since the release 9.6, we can have multiple tenants using multiple different KMIP servers. So you can have external key manager for one single tenant using, let's say, HashiCorp Vault. And you can have also a different tenant for a different customer, which is using his own external key manager. And you can segregate really the key managers and having them split across one single appliance. So it's called multi-tenant configuration for external key manager. Okay, so in this table, I've put you some of the features that we are comparing between the three different options. So both if it's the hardware-based encryption called NSE, or if it's the software-based encryption called NVE for volume encryption, or NAE for aggregate encryption. And I've pointed out some of the main differences. So aggregate storage efficiency. So again, the efficiency, if you want to get the best efficiency, if you can go for hardware-based encryption, so let's go for hardware-based encryption. If you cannot have any hardware-based encryption, so the self-encrypted drives, go for the NAE method, the NAE software. So it's NetApp aggregate encryption, which is going to preserve and avoid losing some efficiency ratio at the aggregate layer. So we have also the Metro cluster, which is only available for software-based encryption. We have the software-defined storage also, which is only available for software-based encryption. So both if it's ONTAP Select or even ONTAP in the cloud or Cloud ONTAP, you can use the software-based encryption using an external key manager. And we have also something which is interesting, the level of compliancy. So with the both hardware-based or software-based, we are responding to FIPS 140-2. But with the hardware-based, we're going to go a little bit a step further, where we're going to support also the level 2 of this regulation. So I'm going to share this, of course, I'm going to share this presentation at the end of the webinar, so you will be able to go over each and every details. And Kapil, floor is yours, man.
Awesome, thanks, David. Let me quickly share my screen. All right, can you see it? Hopefully.
Yes, I do.
Awesome. All right, so that was really interesting, and the fact that all three encryption types, hardware and software, both software encryptions, can benefit from an external key manager is kind of what I took as the highlight. And I will continue that in my discussion when I talk about Vault. So before that, let's quickly talk about HashiCorp. For those of you who are not familiar with HashiCorp or have not heard about HashiCorp that much, probably you have heard about one of these tools on the right-hand side. We are the makers of all these open source tools. I'm sure many of you have used Vagrant or Packer, and Terraform as well is also one of the most popular tools that we have. And today we are talking about Vault. But what is most common about all our tools is that they are meant to make your life easier when it comes to infrastructure automation. And all the tools come or are usable in different, so to say, layers of infrastructure management and provisioning. And the first one, for example, if you're provisioning, probably Terraform, Packer, and Vagrant are the most useful tools that you will think about when you're doing any kind of provisioning, be it in the cloud or on-premise, right? When it comes to securing your applications, Vault, which will act as a key manager in this scenario, in use case that we are discussing, Vault and Boundary, which is one of our new tools, is how we want to bring innovation, bring new workflows and automation in the market. And then we have tools around service management, service discovery. How do you connect your services? How do you secure your services in a multi-cloud environment? And with that, that is Console. And then we also have Nomad, which is a scheduler for applications of different kinds for different platforms. And last but not the least, Waypoint, which is a developer-oriented tool, which we released this year in October. So we have a long list of open source tools that we work on. And many of these tools are also commercially available with support and also some advanced features which are required for enterprise usage, for example. Right. With all these different layers, we tend to, or we would like to unlock the cloud operating model, right? So when you're doing operations in the cloud in a multi-cloud environment, you can use all these tools to solve automation problems, operation problems, business problems, to make your life easier and your environment more secure. Right? So that's kind of the direction of the company, and those are the tools. So it's not we haven't been in the market as long as NetApp has, right? But we already have a huge number of customers which trust our tools and are using enterprise versions of our tools. And we already have more than 1,000 enterprise customers, 8 out of the 10 Fortune customers, and more than 125 plus Fortune 500 customers. So already tested and proven products used by the best organizations in the world. All right, so let's now talk about HashiCorp Vault, not just as a key manager for NetApp, but in general, what HashiCorp Vault is and what HashiCorp Vault offers. This is a slide which tells about the use cases of Vault and also helps us understand how Vault functions. So first of all, there are three major use cases that we cover with Vault. First is secret management in a multi-cloud, multi-platform environment. So it doesn't matter where you are running your applications, you can store secrets securely within Vault, and applications can access these centrally through Vault, right? So it doesn't matter if you're in Azure or AWS or Google Cloud or on-premise, you will use Vault to secure and safeguard your secrets. So that's number one use case. Then we have data encryption as a use case. So applications can actually use Vault to encrypt and decrypt data, generate new encryption keys, rotate encryption keys. And that is something we call transit secret engine. And we have lots of different features around that. And I think you can also consider this use case as one of the encryption related features, right? Where we are actually managing the encryption keys for a third system, which needs to take care of encryption of data, right? And then we also have more features like HSM integration. And also we also consider this KMIP integration that we use with NetApp as an advanced data protection feature because it is used by big enterprises and it is used in advanced data protection use cases. All right, so these three major use cases that we have with Vault. Vault is already a very, very popular open source tool. We see millions of downloads every month. And we have customers which are deploying Vault at a very, very large scale with trillions of transactions happening. So it's a proven product with high scalability and multi-cloud presence, so to say. With Vault, I think this data is old, but we have more than 400 customers already which are using Vault. So already used by many big financial organizations and banks, for example, because they are the first adopters for tools like Vault, which are security focused. To get another better understanding of Vault, it helps to look at this triangle many times and understand the three participants. So there's a client and a system and an authentication. So if a client needs access to a system or a secret or an encryption key, the client must authenticate itself. And then depending on the policy, the authorization, it will get access to a secret. So that's how kind of the workflow works. After authentication, client gets a token, and because the client has a policy which gives access to a system, the client is able to access this system or secrets. So that's kind of how the basic workflow works in Vault. All right, now let's go deeper into the topic of external key management with HashiCorp Vault, which is the main use case that we are discussing today. Right, so we saw that triangle with clients and secrets, but this is an added use case on top of Vault, where Vault can act as a KMIP server, and one instance of Vault actually can act as multiple KMIP servers. And Vault in itself, in the enterprise version, is also multi-tenant, so you could actually use Vault with as multiple KMIP servers. And then for NetApp system, Vault is just a KMIP server. So NetApp system is not really aware that it's Vault, but it talks to Vault using the KMIP protocol. And then Vault has the capability to connect to an HSM system, which gives the whole setup the capability to be, say, FIPS compliant, right? So let's go through these important points. So I already talked about the integration happening using the KMIP protocol. For those who don't know, it's the key management interoperability protocol. And I think it's from OSS. So it's a standard protocol which many applications use for this key management functions. So it's not just NetApp, for example. You can have NetApp VMware using the same protocol and can then use and talk to KMIP servers, or a database which wants to do transparent data encryption, also talk to a KMIP server, and then do the encryption for the data within the database, right? So this is something that is industry standard, which many applications use. And Vault follows that protocol and offers those APIs using that protocol for different systems. So it can be used for disk encryption or volume encryption, right? NetApp talks directly to the KMIP server and creates new keys, or does the life cycle of the keys, and doesn't store it in the system physically, but lets the Vault system manage the keys and keep and store and secure the keys for NetApp. Then the HSM support. The great thing about Vault is that all HSMs which support PKCS 11 and have the certain functions required, which we have implemented, will work with Vault. So it's a long list of HSMs that will work together with Vault. So we don't have to really worry to secure a different PKCS or different HSM for different KMIP servers. Vault also has multi-tenancy inbuilt, so you can create namespaces and logically separate tenants within one instance of Vault, and say use one tenant with one storage virtual machine in NetApp, for example, and then create a really multi-tenant environment together with the NetApp system. Then, of course, Vault is not just the KMIP server, but offers multi-cloud secret management, right? And works in different cloud environments and for different use cases. So if you're already using Vault, it gives you an added advantage to use KMIP. But if you're starting off, you can start it as a KMIP server, but also explore other use cases where you can secure and use Vault for different key managements or secret managements or encryption services. So traditionally, there are lots of different solutions available, right? Many of them are hardware-based solutions. Many of them are appliance-based solutions, right? And I just want to highlight some points. Why would you even consider Vault? And what advantages does Vault bring? So first of all, it is flexibility, right? Because it's a new cloud-native kind of tool, which is multi-tenant and can run on different platforms. It gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of automation, in terms of how it is distributed and how you can deploy it. Instead of thinking about, say, VMware appliance kind of, even though it is software-based, but it's still like an appliance or a hardware appliance. So it's difficult to manage and work with them. So that makes a huge difference, especially for organizations which have multiple use cases around such key managements. Then we have cost and efficiency. Of course, if you have multiple KMIP use cases, multiple key management use cases, you have VMware, you have NetApp, you have databases which you want to use KMIP servers, it makes a lot of sense to have one central instance where you can create multiple KMIP servers, then have different stacks all over the place, and which will eventually make your costs go up, right? For the licensing, for the operations, and etc. And again, Vault is a new modern tool with REST APIs and a GUI and a CLI interface, which makes the management comparatively much better and modern. Vault is certified by NetApp, and we test it together. It follows the KMIP OS's standard, which is of course very, very important if you are going to deploy this scenario. And of course, secure multi-tenancy is a critical part which helps you keep the costs in check. Then HSM support, I already mentioned that we support a huge array of HSM servers, which makes also a huge difference. So if you have one KMIP server which supports one HSM and then another KMIP server which supports another HSM, so you will have different combinations and sometimes one will not work with another. So this gives you also more freedom and flexibility to have HSM supported. And of course, with HSM, you get FIPS 142 compliance, which is the major reason many customers go for HSM. And Vault is highly available by design. And if you use, say, console, you can also have automated registration, tagging, health checks. And it also comes with a integrated storage backend called Raft, but it is highly available by design, right? And you have, in enterprise, we have features like disaster recovery, multi-data center replication, which can really scale your solution to an enterprise environment. So if you have multiple data centers, you can have multiple active vaults which are connected together and replicating data within each other. So that is a very, very compelling solution for bigger enterprises with many data centers. And lastly, because Vault is a security system, right, it has to audit everything. So everything is written in the logs. We have different log plugins. We have a monitoring Splunk application, for example, and that's also why Vault really offers. So I'm sure audit logs are available in other applications, other KMIP servers as well. But the important part to understand is that if you have a central service, then you have only one central service to maintain, one central service to collect logs from, and one place to actually say switch off or turn off a button or revoke keys and stuff like that. So that makes a huge difference to run Vault as a central service in this case. All right, so that was all the theory about Vault and a little bit about HashiCorp as a company. Now let's look at how the deployment looks like. So we have in this the center a HashiCorp Vault, which is acting as a KMIP server. By default, it will use 5696 as a port and TCP port, and it will be as a KMIP server or servers, right? And it will be a highly available instance with which NetApp systems can talk to using KMIP. So initially, you will set up the KMIP, what we call KMIP secret engine on the NetApp, on the HashiCorp Vault. And then you get a bunch of certificates, which David will go through in the demo. And then you set up and configure this KMIP server that you have configured on the Vault system with different certificates and keys on the NetApp system. And then they will be able to talk to each other, and NetApp system will be able to use Vault as a key manager. So NetApp will not store the keys on site, but it will use the keys from Vault. And on the right hand side, the master keys for Vault to function, for all the keys to be wrapped with, for example, as well, if you want to do that, you can connect Vault to HSM server. And then with this connection, you're compliant and you have the master keys stored, or the source of master keys within the HSM. And that way you stay compliant. So this solution gives you a more compliant and regulatory compliant environment with the HSM and ONTAP integration with KMIP and PKCS. So that's just how basically it looks like. But if you think about a bigger organization with multiple clusters and very, very highly available environments, you can have different performance standbys and an active node. You can have multiple HSMs, and you can have a load balancer, and you can make it highly available and for the NetApp systems to always have access to a Vault, and not because if Vault is not there, or a NetApp system reboots, or a new volume needs to be created, then that will be like a critical downtime. So to avoid that, of course, it is important that Vault supports an active kind of environment where volumes can always be decrypted or created with encryption. Yeah, I think that's all I had about the integration. And now I will hand it over to David, and he's going to show us the demo.
Thank you, Kapil. We're gonna go over all what you just explained right now in the demo. So let me share the screen again, and I think you can see the screen. I believe that it's a yes. Okay, so just before
yes,
we're gonna go over the demo, I just want to explain you what you are going to see in this demo. So basically, we have a jump host here, which is going to access a NetApp system called cluster 1, where we are going to create some volumes and some CIFS shares here in this cluster. This cluster is going to be connected to HashiCorp Vault single instance, just the purpose of my lab. It's not a big one, so I don't have lots of resources to run several instances. So I'm going to show you where this machine is going to be connected and how we connect an HashiCorp Vault cluster, an HashiCorp Vault node to the NetApp ONTAP systems, and how you can access them. Also, what I'm going to show you, but it's going to be just right after, it's going to be where I'm moving from one volume which is non-encrypted to a volume which is going to be encrypted, and how we can do that. So let's start with demo. So first of all, the first thing I would like to show you is the HashiCorp GUI. I'm gonna go here. It is. So the GUI itself is available through the main access. I mean the main URL RHEL1. Here is the name of my server, port 8200, and I'm getting a logon portal where I'm going to provide the token. So the token has been already issued here. So it's stored. I shared it. Don't do it in production. I stored it in a text file. Here is the token for the root, just to authenticate myself to the GUI. Paste. Sign in. Here it is. So here, this is the GUI of Vault. By the way, it's also available through REST API, so you can automate everything, every single configuration that you need to do in Vault. You can also do it by REST API, or even using the commands that you can run directly here, like Vault status and so on. So you have all the different information here directly available through the commandlet itself. So the first thing we have to do here for to create the KMIP engine here is to create the engine itself. So if you can choose many different engine, but the one which is going to be relevant here is the KMIP engine. So you need to create this engine, give him a name, a path, enable the engine, and then we're going to configure it. You can configure it. So to configure it, you have to provide the listen address. I mean, on which and ever IP address we're going to listen for KMIP protocol. So here I'm going to put 0.0.0.0. So don't do it again at home. And the thing which is important also here to configure is the server IP. So what is my IP address for my customer, for my client that are going to configure, to connect. So my IP address is 192.168.0.61. This is the IP address of the Vault server itself. Then that's it. So it gives me now what we call a CA certificate. So this is the certificate I will need to install in my NetApp system. So I already did it for the sake of the demonstration. So I can show you here. We have certificates show minus subtype, because we have lots of different certificates that installed already in the cluster, but we can filter them by KMIP certificates. And you can see here that I have lots of certificates. So let's put it a little bit bigger. Okay, so you can see here that my certificate, which is this one, the CA certificate, is basically what we call at the NetApp layer a server certificate, a server CA. So you will see here that there is the Vault, the certificate authority is the Vault KMIP default. This is the one that the provided one. But again, if you're in a large enterprise, you may have your own CA certificate that you will be able to implement with your Vault configuration. But for the the demo purpose, I've just created my own CA certificate. So you have this one, which is available, sorry, and that you will need to configure at the cluster level. And you have what we call the client certificate. So the client certificate is a different one. So this is basically when you remember this diagram where the NetApp system is talking to the Vault system. So we are using TLS 1.2 to encrypt this traffic and the key exchange. So we have to provide somehow a key, and a public key and a private key, just to encrypt the data between those during this communication. So this is also available through the GUI itself, or you can go and directly do it with the CLI. I will show you with my current configuration where you can find it. So you need to create what we call a credential at the HashiCorp Vault configuration. And when you will create this credential, it's going to give you a key, a public key, and of course, a private key, which is only available once. The private key, you can see it only once. So you have to, you can always, through the GUI, you can see it only once, but if you're doing with the CLI, you will be able also to get this certificate again. So I've already issued the certificate. So it's going to provide you something like, let's do cat off this guy. So you see, you have the certificate, here it's the public key, and we have the private key, which is here. So those has been already installed and configured in my cluster, and they are available here directly in my cluster. So you have this one, which is the client one, and you have all the server CA for my HashiCorp configuration. So let's now start and configure them. Create the communication between the cluster one and the HashiCorp Vault node. So we have a command called key manager. Yeah, key manager external show. So currently there is no key manager. You see here, no key manager servers registered. So let's register one key manager. So key manager external enable, and the IP address of my server. So here the IP address is 192.168.0.61, and the port 5696, which is the default for KMIP, but you can change it also. And here I need to provide the client certificate. So the name of the client certificate is this one. And the server CA is going to be this one, Vault KMIP default. And here, I'm not going to provide multi-tenant key manager. I'm just going to enable the key manager at the cluster layer. So here, my client is going to be the cluster itself. Okay. And that's it. As already, this is the demo. Cool. Already has the external key manager configured. Okay, cool. So let's remove it first. We're gonna do an add server. This is what's going when you're doing the demo live. Here it is. So now if I'm doing key manager external show status. Okay, so it showed me now that my Vault instance is available for encryption. So one thing which is really important here, there is no data going through the cluster itself to the Vault node. I mean, Vault is not encrypting my data. Vault and the clustered ONTAP are only sharing some keys. So as soon as I get the keys when I'm when I'm creating a volume, I'm storing these keys and then starting my encryption at the cluster layer. I don't send any data to the Vault cluster. This is really important for you to understand, since you don't need to dedicate some 100 gig network between the clusters itself and the external key manager. So now that we have an external key manager configured already, let's create a volume. So we have some aggregates. Yes. So let's create, and we have some vServers. vServer show. We have this one, which is a NAS vServer. So volume create for NAS. We're going to create a volume called CIFS non-encrypted. And we're going to put it in aggregate number 1. It's going to be a 60 gigabyte volume, space warranty known. And we're going to encrypt, we're going to say false. And junction path is going to be slash CIFS non-encrypt. Okay, so this is basically, I'm creating a volume, a really basic volume, and it's not going to be an encrypted volume. Okay, now we're going to produce another one, which is going to be an encrypted volume. Okay, so volume non-encrypted. And here oops, no, I need to specify that I'm going to have an encrypted volume. Here it is. So now the system is talking to my Vault servers and getting a key, what we call a VE key, volume encryption key, that we can query right now. So we can do key manager key manager query node 1, and you can see here that there is one key which has this key ID, and that's cool because we have 2 volumes and only one single key, because one of the volume is not encrypted yet. And we can verify that this key is also available, used by the volume I've just selected before. So we can do volume show minus field encryption. Oops, sorry. Encrypt type and encryption type, sorry. See this one, CIFS enc is a volume, is encrypted by the volume, so it's an NVE encryption, software encryption, and the CIFS non-enc is known, so it's not an encrypted volume inside the same aggregate itself. So let's create some CIFS shares. CIFS share create. Share name is going to be CIFS encrypted. The path is /CIFS encrypted. Here it is, and non-encrypted.
Yep. Just a 5-minute remaining time check.
Yeah, we're going to make it quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 shares now available. So if I'm going to I'm browsing these shares. Here I have those CIFS non-encrypt and CIFS encrypt, and I can browse it, create some files over there, like stupid files, and they are encrypted automatically. So, okay. So now let's see how we can encrypt a volume which has created non-encrypted. Okay, we're gonna encrypt this volume, and we're gonna see that the system is going to query another key for me. So we're gonna do a volume move start minus the server NAS minus volume CIFS. We're gonna encrypt the non-encrypt volume to the same aggregate. Oops. And we're gonna put the special flag called encrypt destination true. Here it is. So now there is a job which is moving my data. Encrypting all my data. So I can see vol move show. You can see that it's already in cutover mode, so it's almost finished, and it's done. And now if I'm querying, if I'm doing a key manager query, I will see that I have now two different keys. So you remember when I said that the NetApp volume encryption, each volume is using its own key. So now you can see that volume 1 is using key number 1 and volume 2 is using key number 2. So now all the volumes are available through, are encrypted, are stored in an encrypted fashion. And still, I have access to the same exact data, both if I'm browsing the encrypted volume or the volume which were created as a non-encrypted volumes. And I can still continue to write down my data and so on. And this is completely non-disruptive workflow. It's using what we call the volume move procedures. Okay, so now let's see really quickly what's going on when I'm losing my Vault server. So let's do a systemctl stop Vault just to stop the service. Don't do it at home also. So now my Vault is going to be shut down. If I'm checking the status of my key managers, external show status, this one is not responding, but still, as you remember, my volume are still browsable. So if I'm going to the / my share, if I'm going to this volume, I can still continue to write down data, and the data are going to be stored encrypted because I have already the key inside. What's going on now? It's like if I'm doing a reboot of my appliance, of the NetApp appliance, those two volumes at the boot level will be non-available, will be remaining offline. Vol show minus vserver NAS. You can see that those two volumes are currently online. If I'm rebooting my node here, those two volumes will remain offline. So I'm going to try to do it if we have enough time. Yes, maybe we can answer.
I think David, we can wrap up, and then if we can continue with the demo after that, if you like, which will get recorded and people can see. We can do the questions now and quickly wrap up, I would say.
Sure.
And then we can continue with the demo if you like afterwards. So
let me
I don't know if there are any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So just two questions that have come through. Firstly is it right KMIP for NetApp needs Vault Enterprise? And if so, what would be the client counted for the license? So would it be the filer, the SVM, or the volume?
Yeah, so this is a licensing and pricing question, and I would recommend talking to a sales representative or an enterprise account manager for it. But I can tell you that we are working on a solution that in future you will be able to see the number of clients directly in the GUI, like in 1.6 you can see for others. So hopefully in the next releases, you will see for KMIP as well, the number of clients show up. But I would recommend talking to a representative about the licensing part.
Yeah, no problem. And we can connect you afterwards with a local representative. The other question was just around, is there an integration with ONTAP Select and clustered volume ONTAP with AWS, GCP, and Azure?
David, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure, of course. So basically, we can connect and interconnect an external key manager to Cloud Volume ONTAP in the public cloud, or we can use even ONTAP Select and interconnect it to HashiCorp Vault cluster external key manager servers. So there is no issue with that. And of course, I will add it's adding another layer in especially in the public cloud when you have ONTAP Cloud available with this encryption layer at the disk layer in AWS. Then you can have another layer of encryption where you're going to be when you're going to hold your own security layer, and you're going to hold your own encryption layer. So you're going to have two different ways to encrypt your data. You can use the Vault encryption using NetApp volume encryption on top of the encryption provided by AWS, for example, or Azure on those drives itself. So you can use both an external key manager and even the cloud proposed key managers.
Fantastic. All right. Well, David, Kapil, thank you so much for the presentation and for the demo. If you are able to stick around, David will just finish up his demo. But if you have to leave us, firstly, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out. And if you fancy learning a bit more about HashiCorp and NetApp and how they're working together, then I really encourage you to check out our integrations page, which you can find at hashicorp.com/integrations/NetApp. And if you want to get more hands-on with Vault, you can also try our online learning platform where you can try some of the features that we've been discussing today. And you can find that at learn.hashicorp.com/Vault. Now, lastly, just a reminder, this webinar was recorded and we'll make the recording and the slides available within the next 24 hours. And I'll send a link out to you once it's ready. So as I say, if you have to leave us, thank you for joining. If you do want to stick around to see the rest of David's demo, then you are more than welcome. And at that point, I will hand back to you, David.
Thank you. Just a few things. So as you may noticed here, there were some warning messages saying that I cannot connect to key managers. So when the system is booting, there is lots of different messages. The system is trying to and retrying to connect to my key managers, and it's failing. So it doesn't find any key managers available, but it still boots the system. So once the system has been booted, you can see here, logon, you remember that all my volume were available in online. Now, if I'm doing a volume show minus vServer for this specific vServer, you will see that those two volumes, the CIFS enc and CIFS non-encrypted, remains offline. So this prevents you accessing them if the key manager has not, if the NetApp system has been rebooted and the key manager is not available. And as soon as I'm going to bring back the key manager to life, those two volumes are going to be available again. So here, this guy needs to detect that the key manager is available. Key manager external show status. Still not responding. Oh, I need to unseal it, of course. So it's Vault operator unseal. And of course, the key is hidden. So the key. Okay, let's unseal it. Here's the unseal key I'm using. Okay, now the Vault is available. So now let's validate that NetApp see this guy available. Can take a few seconds. Here is available. And because it's available, now it should online my volumes. So let's try to see. Here it is. Those volumes are back online automatically without the need of doing anything here. So I can still browse my data and start writing down some new data since everything is available again. This concludes this demo. Thank you for watching. And Kapil, do you want to wrap up everything?
Yeah. Let me do that. So we just wanted to share some resources which will be available to you as part of the presentation as well. So we learned about the encryption that NetApp offers, both hardware and software at rest. And we learned about the two key manager models that it supports and how HashiCorp Vault can be used as an external key management. And it is certified. It offers different capabilities, including encryption as service and multi-cloud secret management. And Vault is KMIP compliant, also supports HSM for FIPS compliance, for example. And we have a really strong partnership, NetApp and HashiCorp, and we work together on the technology side to make this happen and certify the tools and the systems together. just some resources. For NetApp side of things, all this is documented in the NetApp documentation here. You will get this as part of the slides. And then we also have a white paper about securing NetApp data with HashiCorp Vault, which is a good starting point if you are implementing this. And then we also have a learn guide for the KMIP secret engine if you're using it not just for NetApp, but also for other things like, say, MySQL encryption or VMware encryption. This is where you can learn how to set it up, which David did with all the certificates and enabling the secret engine. And then there are some more blogs and white papers that are available as part of that. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much for joining today, and I hope it was helpful. And reach out to us, reach out to Connor if you would like to get in touch with a sales representative or just have questions. Feel free to reach out. Yeah, David, do you want to say anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you really much to have me on stage today, Kapil and Connor. And I mean, again, if you need any help, any assistance on the NetApp part for the configuring external key manager, reach out to me. I mean, you have my LinkedIn profile. You will have it in the support, and you will have you can also write me an email at david.benadiba@netapp.com. I will be pleased to answer it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.